Okay, this is my second video of the day. I'm actually waiting on my SNES unboxing video from earlier to upload. Looks like I have, just 103 minutes left. So I thought we'd run through some NES games, some classic original NES games, and this is just my collection as it stands. I believe I have, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. That's what I thought. I've got 19 over here. At one time, I had a collection of over 100 NES games, and it's very disappointing not to have all of those now. I had some unfortunate circumstances. I also don't have a working NES. I had two NESs, and the last one quit working a couple of years ago. I do still have some controllers, and I'm looking to pick up an NES, so that'll be a part of the collection. But really, right now, focused on the SNES. You may have seen the unboxing. If not, go check it out. I'll hopefully have that uploaded by the time this one gets up. But the SNES, I just got a SNES a couple of weeks ago. Super Nintendo, for those of you that aren't familiar with the shorthand term there. Just picked it up, got a few games, and I'm looking to do a collection video later on this weekend, hopefully. But that's what I'm collecting for. Not really ready to get back into the NES yet. I will get one though. I thought the SNES, as one of the greatest consoles of all time, I thought the Super Nintendo would be a great one to introduce my girlfriend, who doesn't really play games at all. I thought about throwing her into the PS3 or the Xbox or something like that, maybe the PS4, but she doesn't really seem up for that. So we've got a Game Boy Advance and the Super Nintendo that she's working her way through, and I think that'll help a ton. Then we'll backscale even further and go back to the NES at some point. But let's take a look at my NES collection. Pretty basic collection at 19 games, but I do have some of the most, in my mind, some of the most important games for the NES. We'll start with one here that's kind of a port of some arcade classics. Donkey Kong Classics on the NES was one of the earliest games I remember playing. Very basic. If you've ever played Donkey Kong, it is Donkey Kong. 100% original Donkey Kong. And then Donkey Kong Jr. is the tale of Donkey Kong Jr. right here. You can see him saving Dad from Mario. And I've read a really great Cracked article one time that pointed out that Mario, at least in the Donkey Kong series, is a really bad guy. He's trying to cage Donkey Kong, and then he's fending off Donkey Kong Jr. You see him here hitting Donkey Kong in the head with a hammer. So not a very nice guy in these series, but a fun game. Neat to play some of the old, I guess, arcade classics. Really fun to play some of those and see how people used to do it back in the olden days, even before the NES brought video games home. Some of these are going to be really dirty. You can see this right here. I'm not sure if that's mold or something where these were in storage, but I am going to get these cleaned up. I do want to have them on display. Fortunately, all my labels seem to be in really good condition. Even the well, it won't focus, but even the end labels here seem to be in really great shape. So anyway, this is the second game I've got here. These are in no particular order, but this is Trick Shooting, which is, as it says right here, a light gun game. You can see Bill Barker there, or Barker Bill, tossing some bottles in the air. You would shoot bottles, you'd shoot panes of glass, balloons. Lots of really fun gameplay with the light gun. If you had a zapper, I don't have a zapper anymore. I'm going to get one. I'm hoping to get one of the gray ones. I had an orange one as a kid, but I always thought the gray one looked cooler. But this was a great game for the light gun, trick shooting. If you ever want to adapt to the light gun, you don't want to play Duck Hunt. This is one of several games for the light gun. Which, for those of you kids who never played the NES, the light gun is like a modern day Move, PlayStation Move, or an Xbox Kinect. This is one of the stranger games in my collection, probably the strangest. This is King of Kings: The Early Year by Wisdom Tree. You can see it down here. They give you instructions on how to start the game, how to turn it on and everything, but this is playing through like New Testament. If I remember right, you play as the three wise men at one point. I can't remember really a lot else. Maybe you play as Mary and Joseph carrying a baby Jesus through the city. I don't remember, but if you're into religious games, I don't know what this one's worth. It is a third-party game. I don't know what this one is worth. It may not even be a legal game. I don't know. I've never really looked into it, but I probably will after this video. Interesting game if you're a religious person. There was also a Noah's Ark game by the same people, and I think it had David in it, and I'm not sure what else, but that was very interesting back in the day to be able to get some games like that. This is Vice, Project Doom. I vaguely remember this game. I want to say there's a shooting aspect. I remember tossing some grenades, I think, with this one, but they're like a different type of grenade. I want to say this was a little bit futuristic, this game. And there was also a driving aspect to this game. You drove like it was a shooter, almost like a top-scrolling from bottom to top type driving game, and you would shift lanes and drive around, and you had to shoot things with the car. So I don't remember a ton about this game by Sammy, but if it's in my collection, it means it was probably pretty good. I don't remember having many bad games, although I do have a couple in this stack here. Defender of the Crown. I remember almost nothing about this Ultra game, other than I think this had a fencing style sword fight aspect to it. I don't remember a lot else. Maybe also some jousting in this one. Could be completely off base, though. I did have several like middle-aged type games. Not middle-aged, but well, anyway, you get the idea. Elizabethan type era games. I had a few of those back in the day, so I'm not really sure exactly how that one played, but check it out nonetheless. This was one of my favorite games. I don't recall without a Game Genie. This is one of a couple of games in here that I will mention that I used a Game Genie on when I was a kid. I'm only 27, so the NES is actually a year older than me, and therefore when I was playing through these games, they came off as ridiculously hard to me because I was just a little kid. But Ghoul School, I know that's hard to read there. That's Ghoul School. You can see some of the baddies in here. There's a skull with eyes, a couple of skulls with eyes. So that was the gist of this. The school, I want to say something happened, and the school was converted to have a bunch of ghosts and ghouls and that kind of thing in it. A really neat game, though. It had a bunch of different shoe options for your character to wear, and they all serve different purposes. Like you had the regular tennis shoes, then you had spring shoes, which let you jump high, but also let you walk a few inches off the ground. So that one type of bad guy that ran around on the floor, he ran just a few inches high, and if you were on the spring shoes, you could just walk right over him. Didn't even affect you at all. There was a towel and a bat and an Uzi and other types of guns, and I remember all the guns and finding the guns and trying to map out the school. There were different floors to the school, and trying to map all that out was really, really fun. Really neat game. And there were certain bad guys that you could come across by accident, like certain rooms, like the principal, I think. You could walk up to where the principal was, and if you didn't have the right weapon, you were not going to get past them, and you would die instantaneously. So yeah, really tough game, really fun game. Ghoul School. On the other hand, a not so fun game, Capcom's Mickey Mouse Capade. I remember almost nothing about this game other than I would put it in sometimes because I thought, Disney, this will be tons of fun, and it never was. Just not a really well put together game. I do have a lot of Disney games, though. My family, big Disney people. I have a bunch of Disney games whenever I get to a review of my my SNES collection. I have I think Lion King and Aladdin and one other, Jungle Book, so we'll get to those. This might be one of the hardest games, right up there with Ghoul School and another game I'm going to review in a few minutes. This game by Ultra is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the video game adaptation, and you can see right there the turtles as we focus. They all have the same color headbands. Shame on you, Ultra, for not knowing that Raphael is the only one that wears red. But that was a common thing in the 90s. You would get all kinds of games and merchandise that had the wrong headband colors for the Ninja Turtles. This game is most notorious for its dam levels. Playing inside the dam, there was a gap, just a 1-block gap that you couldn't jump over because you were too close to the ceiling. You could walk across it, but most of us didn't find that out until like in our 20s. You could just walk across the gap, and we all spent all our time trying to jump across there and just falling down the gap instead. And then once you got through the inside of the dam, you had to go swim outside of the dam, which was even harder because you were in a hurry. There was a timer, and you had to rush while at the same time trying not to bump into some electric seaweed. So a really tough game. You're probably better off if you want to play a Ninja Turtles game. There's a Ninja Turtles fighting game and Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time on the Super Nintendo. Those I would recommend much more highly. This is Journey to Silius, a game by Sunsoft, an early Sunsoft game, and you can see there, I don't know of any other game that has an actual screenshot. That's a legitimate level. I want to say the first level of Journey to either Silius or Silius, but really fun game. Side-scroller, like so many NES games. Not really any platforming, actually. Not a lot of levels, as far as height that you would think of for platforming, and I don't remember any moving platforms or anything like that. But side-scroller, you could pick up different weapons. There was a shotgun that shot 3 pellets at a time. The bad guys, your generic baddies are like that little guy right there, some kind of droid robot type thing. But there was also like a super tank and a super copter, and you had to have certain weapons to try and destroy them, or at least not necessarily you had to have them, but by the time you got to the boss, you really needed to have some of the stronger, like the machine gun or something like that. Okay, this worst game, hardest game I remember playing. I loved it because I was a huge Ghostbusters fan, but Activision really royally messed up with this one. This is just abysmal. You drive around with the Ghostbusters logo right here, represents your Ecto-1 on the map until you actually go to one of the houses that's got a ghost problem, and then you get to drive the Ecto-1 on screen and try not to hit the ghost-possessed cars on screen. A lot of people mistake them for drunk drivers. They're not. They're ghost-possessed cars. If they hit you, you lose money, and you have to have a ton of money to buy the advanced weaponry, technology that is required to beat the game. But even if you get through all, buy all the stuff that you need, and you've made lots of money, and you've driven around a ton, and you've caught a bunch of ghosts, when you finally go to the building, there's a building right in the very center that says Zool on it. Zool is the bad guy at the end. Also Gozer the Gozerian, but Zool is the only one mentioned here. By the time you get to the Zool building, you'll have to walk up 22 flights of stairs, just like in the movie, get to the 22nd floor. You can only move by tapping the A button. You have to avoid ghosts. That if you get hit by these ghosts 3 times, you die. It's impossible. Even the Angry Video Game Nerd, you can check out his channel. I'll put a link somewhere for it. But even the Angry Video Game Nerd had to use the Game Genie to beat this game. That's how hard it is. Do not bother. It's better on the Mega Drive, but it's still absolutely atrocious. Or maybe it was the Genesis. Either way, much prettier game on that one. This is the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, set in the Midwest. You get shotguns and pistols and a whip. More importantly, a whip. And I think one-ups were the Indiana Jones hat. This was a really fun game for me. Side-scroller. Lots of versatile bad guys, if you could have those back on the NES. I remember playing this game a lot and enjoying it almost every time. I think there were some pipe bombs too, maybe Molotov cocktails. Really, really neat weaponry for a game back on the NES. Now, here's my lone duplicate, and I think it's a great duplicate to have. Maybe I'll wind up selling one of them, clean it up and sell it. But you got Super Mario Brothers, which we'll get to in a second, and then Light Gun Game Extraordinaire, Duck Hunt, Play with a Zapper. Man, that is a fun game. And I found this out recently. If you plug in a regular controller to port 2, you can play as the ducks. I think that's right. Check it out online. I'm pretty sure you can play as the ducks while your friend is playing with the light gun. Sadly, you still can't kill the dog. We all hate the dog. Also, little known fact, game 2 on this is like skeet shooting, so try that out. Then Super Mario Brothers, my goodness. Is there a better game? You got to play as Mario and Luigi. The only difference was one was green and one was red. They're the same guy, absolutely identical, but still a really fun game to play. I got a trophy the first time I beat it. My aunts got me a trophy, and I thought that was the neatest thing. So if you've never played Super Mario Brothers, I don't know how you wound up here. If you grew up on the Wii, you got to go back. You can play this online, but more importantly, ask your parents to get you a NES, a Nintendo Entertainment System, and get this game. This is the first one you should have. You should never buy any other game before you buy this. And you can, I know you see that there with Duck Hunt, but you can buy it separate without Duck Hunt. This is Super Mario Brothers 2, and I forgot to look up what game it was a cover-up of. That basically in Japan this was a different game. In Japan they got Super Mario Brothers 2. Here in America we call it the Lost Levels. Really hard version of Mario, almost a Super Mario Brothers B, I guess. Not really 2. It was set in the same world, no real differences. So very similar game style to the first one. This game is I just had some kind of glitch. This game, Super Mario Brothers 2, is completely different than the first Super Mario Brothers. Nothing like it. It's a cover-up of a game that did not come to the US, and I wish I could remember what it's called. I'll probably put it in a little caption here in a few minutes whenever I upload this video. But Super Mario Brothers 2, probably the worst of the NES Super Mario games. And then, of course, probably the best game on the entire console, Super Mario Brothers 3, and you can see him here in the raccoon suit, or whatever you like to call it. I call it the raccoon suit, the flying suit. The first time we got to see Mario fly, there was also the Tanuki suit, and the frog suit, and every other kind of suit you could find imaginable. Lots of suit options in this one, and completely different gameplay than even the second game, but completely different in a great way. Super Mario Brothers 3, probably the best game on the entire console, so definitely check that one out. And you've got to play through the original trilogy. Also a classic on the NES. I used to have the gold version of this game. I'm really sad I do not, but this is The Legend of Zelda, the first Zelda game. There was also Link to the Past. This is a top-down game. Interesting gameplay, lots of dungeons, very hard dungeons, and just like with modern-day Zelda games, you had to have certain weapons to beat certain bosses. You had to have bombs to get to secret areas. You had to find the map to know where all the areas were. Really great gameplay. This started an entire franchise, Legend of Zelda. If you've never played it, you absolutely must pick this up. And try and find the gold version if you can get it. I also had the gold version of A Link to the Past, and I no longer have any version of that. This is the original Mega Man. What is this? That guy, you see this guy right here? He's got what you would call, let's see if we can get that better focused. He's got a gun. I could be wrong, but at no point in time does Mega Man have a gun. Great, super difficult game. You do, just like you do with more recent Mega Man games, you still absorb the powers of whoever you're fighting at the time. When you beat them, you get their powers, and you can go on to use them to fight other bad guys. But this one, if I remember right, was in sequence instead of being able to choose. So the start of a franchise, like so many of these great Nintendo games. This is another one of my favorite games off of the NES. Kirby's Adventure. You see him there sucking up the seam. Kirby would go on to have Kirby's Dream Land and Dream Land 3 and all kinds of Kirby games. Epic Yarn, I think, is one of them now. This was the first, though. You sucked up the bad guys to absorb their powers, and it gave you superpowers. And my favorite was to have the UFO. I loved the UFO. You could fly around in the UFO. There were all kinds of secret areas to get to, and very inventive gameplay for the time. Great graphics too on the NES. This one, for my money, this game really pushed the graphical capabilities of the NES more than I think really any other game that I had. Really enjoyed the style of that one. And then, of course, what would the NES be without Metroid and Samus? Everyone loves Super Metroid. I love Super Metroid too, but Super Metroid doesn't exist if we don't first get Metroid in it. What a game it was. A classic platformer, perfect example of a platformer, and one of the few games that I can think of on the NES where you went to an area but couldn't get through, got something you needed from it anyway, went back to that area later when you had more weapons and got what you really went for, or got a boss or whatever. Very tough game though. Another one of those games that I still find it amazing, all the weapon types that all these NES games managed to come up with, considering now we still have some of the same weapons, rockets and the roller ball and the ball bomb. I mean, what a great idea. You're in the roller ball, you need to blow something up, so you drop a bomb, it explodes, and you can fall through a new hole. So that is my my regular NES collection. You can see them all here. I promise to get those cleaned up a little better. Those are just some terrible looking games. Look, what is that? Hopefully this video hasn't been too long. I know it's about 20 some odd minutes, and we have a cat poking up through there. I really wanted to get this one out of the way. I'm hoping to do these games similar, or my videos, not these games, but my videos, in a similar style to Lithium 017 or Fin Gamer. I'll put captions up here somewhere for you guys to check them out. They're really great collectors, and I can only aspire to have collections as good as those. But yeah, this is kind of the start. We've got the unboxing video for the Super Nintendo. We've got this beginning collection video for the NES, and I'll do a recap of my collection for the Super Nintendo soon. So keep your eyes and ears out for Freeman's updates soon, and until then, I've been told I need to find a catchphrase between now and then, but until then, keep gaming, keep collecting, and like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. Thank you.